It's Clifford T and Jimmy Petruzzi, the weekly sports show. We've got an action-packed show. Clifford, what did you think of the internationals?
Well, they've dominated the whole of this last week here in the sporting world. There's been internationals across Europe, but whether you're sat at home in your living room in Salford or you're listening on the other side of the world, welcome along to sports where it's filleted and distilled and presented to you, whether it's local or international here. And speaking international, we're being listened to. American Red Devils are following us at our Twitter handle, Salford City Radio Sports. We'll tell you a bit about them later. Big United fans. We'll look as well at one of the most dangerous sports in the world. We're going to maybe look at rugby and bull riding this week, see which one toughs it out there. Talking points have been a big week about selling Wembley has been dominated the news. Also Matters, One Matters charity sporting change. He's got Eric Cantona, no less, as the latest contributor and patron. Interesting to hear about his story. And Saudis to buy Man United. A lot of moral talking points this week. But, of course, as you said, Jim, the internationals have dominated. And if you listened last week, I have to do a little bit of humbleness, which I'm happy. I like doing a bit of humbleness. So I might even apologise to Gareth Southgate for coming in a bit heavy on him last week. He showed this week he has been bold and courageous. He went to a 4-3-3 away from home, probably one of the toughest teams in the world to play, and we all know what happened. We're all smiling. He's learning on the job, and good luck to him. He was bold, he's being rewarded. He obviously must have seen the game, that first half evisceration.
Yeah,
football at its peak. I think England at its peak from what I've seen in recent years. Yeah,
definitely, and it'd be interesting to see our listeners, if they want to email and what they made of the performance. And our email address is studio@salfordcityradio.org, studio@salfordcityradio.org, or on the Weekly Sports Show Facebook page, and give us your thoughts on the performance. Although you don't play on paper and stats, the most important stat is winning the game. I just felt that, great performance. Southgate, brave, players, good performance. I tell you what struck me too was, I don't know if you saw it, but that tackle on Ramos.
Oh, it felt so good.
Yeah, and I
shouldn't it? But it did.
Was it a yellow card, do you think? Or
no, well, not really. Not if football is to remain a contact sport, but in the international world, it was very agricultural and but it's the whole ball. It's that it comes down to, if you get the whole ball, is it still dangerous? I think it on the side of legal.
The trajectory of the tackle as well, but I think for me it sort of shows that there's some tenacity about this team. This team wants to be there. If you could make an argument in the past that every player that plays for the country wants to be there, obviously they wouldn't be. But we've seen England teams in the past not play with that sort of passion. I mean, these guys came out.
You know, psychology. Does it truly work that if you go in hard at the start, you get over, you put down the marker, you dominate the battle of fear straight away, and it seemed to work. We got on the front foot, and it does show that you're not cowed and you're not fearful, mate. Maybe psychologically it does have a big impact, and he did great. It was twice, wasn't it, in 11 minutes? He took someone out, and you're right, England, for a young team, very young and experienced, it's important that you show you can mix it up like with anything.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from the win. I think it was a fantastic result, and they played really, really well. The stats, other than the scoreline, the most important stat, Spain had considerable amounts of possession. They had a number of shots on target. And, I think that feet on the ground, I think that's a good thing about Southgate. He's a sort of manager that's going to keep the players' feet on the ground. And it's work in progress. It's not the finished article.
Ball to change formation, though, get away to a 4-3-3 after the comfort blanket of a 3-5-2. And he was rewarded. He was kind of a Mourinho performance in a way, soaking up pressure, but a lot more fluid, a lot more, fluent, let's say, with the whole keeper. And we'll come on to that in a bit with Man United, Chelsea.
No, for sure.
That dominated the last week.
And speaking of Mourinho, and we've got some huge Premiership fixtures this weekend, huge fixtures, and none bigger than the Chelsea-Man United game. That's a huge game for both teams. Sees Mourinho back at Stamford Bridge, and the Sarri revolution, he's sort of come here. And I got to admit, Clifford, when Sarri was announced as Chelsea manager, I wasn't so sure how he'd do. I mean, I've sort of tracked his career. As you know, I'm a Napoli fan. I've been out to watch him on a number of occasions, and he played some good football at Napoli last year. If there was one criticism that the fans had, was that he prioritised the league out there and just rested a lot of key players in the even in the Champions League. You could argue that he put all his eggs in one basket in the league. And the thing for me about Sarri was he didn't seem to have that sort of plan B. It's all out attack and keep moving the ball forward. But so far, so good. But I think tomorrow's going to be a huge test for him.
He had a thin squad as well, probably.
Great
compared
point,
to more riches now. And he's worked his way up from the second division. They couldn't be more opposite from Mourinho in every way. Old versus new, fear versus fun. But what's fascinating, what I found interesting, is Sarri is a big disciple of Sacchi, Arrigo Sacchi.
Yes,
and
there are some parallels.
And Guardiola started this new kind of football, this 4D kind of football. There's been some great articles this week, because Man United Chelsea is the biggest, most dramatic sporting event this week. I mean, the narratives are great with Mourinho. Again, he's had 2 weeks respite, suspended animation of all that tension and pent up frustration. So he's got Chelsea, Man United next 2 games, and he is under pressure. And the general theme, which has been interesting this week, is why is he failing? And Sarri, Guardiola are the biggest disciples of Sacchi. They all met together this summer. It's like a cult. And what they did and what changed in 2008, what Sarri does, is what happens off the ball, how they move, and they do this in training. And this is where Mourinho could be old-fashioned. They concentrate off the ball. They see the team as shoals of fish, intelligent communication, intelligent, connected. They move in small packs to hunt, and it's what you do off the ball. And Barcelona, when they pioneered that, get the ball back in the opposite third. And psychologically, the other team's already scared because they never have the ball. They have high possession. And when they do have the ball, it serves psychologically to terrify. They cough the ball up. And a good stat. And so these are the future of football. And this is where Mourinho, you can start to see what I discovered this week is he's stuck in the old way, 3D defence, reactive, fearful, try and get on the break. And it doesn't work anymore. And so this new 4D football where they work as an organism at different times, and it's called storming, not just pressing, where they go like a shoal of fish, I imagine it, and they change to attack. And a really interesting stat of half of all goals in Champions League last season, half of them came from the final third. Attack started in the final third. That's turnover ball. And the ratio of goals per year in the Champions League last 10 years. So the game has changed from reactive defensive football. It worked great. So there's so much involved here in this game tomorrow. What's he going to do? Is he going to go? Is he going to go crazy? Have the players took over control now?
Well, I think the game after the international break is always an interesting one. Players are coming back, and certainly Chelsea and United have had a number of players playing in international duty. So the players come back, and you always wonder what their mindset is after an international break. And also the coaches, the managers. I mean, when you think about it, you've had that sort of 2 weeks to think about things, and no doubt Mourinho would have been pondering a few things, that's for sure. And it's a huge game. He's back at Stamford Bridge. It'd be.
Is it a busted flush though? Is he?
No, I don't think so. I think Mourinho's a winner. I think Mourinho.
Is this the raging of the dying of the light for him? Is this just going to be a public, slow motion end to his career? Has it already been decided here? So it's tough for him.
I wouldn't write Mourinho off.
Is there a way back for him, you think?
I think so. I think Mourinho's a winner, and there's no taking away from the fact Mourinho's won as many, if not in the modern game, he's one of the most successful managers from a winning point of view. But
he's outdated now. He's been this week in the press. He's being called the Black Plague of managers.
I think that's the press for you. I think sometimes the press, it can be a knee-jerk reaction. I think that I think for me, the game's caught up with him. Different style of football, but sometimes you need to sort of take a step back and adapt. And he's an intelligent man. Mourinho is a very, very clever man. He's a fantastic manager, and I think he can turn things around. I really do. I think that he's the sort of person that is a winner. He goes out to win things.
I think you're in a minority. I think a lot of people have given up on him. Maybe even the club.
I might be in the minority, but it doesn't make me wrong, I guess.
No way. You're often right, the minority.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think sometimes, whether he should be kept as Man United manager is everyone's got their own opinion. I can perfectly understand people who think that he's sort of run his time. I personally don't think he has. I think he's a winner. I think that he's the sort of person that this losing patch that he's had is going to hurt him, and I think he's probably had time to go away, think about it. I can see a game where he'll be cagey. The game's going to be a cagey game for United. I think Sarri plays one way. He plays one way. He's going to go for it.
But he represents the very much the modern way.
Modern game. And the irony is, too, when you think about it, both managers didn't really have when you say significant playing career, both managers weren't prolific as players. Right. it goes to show.
Once become gilded, Mourinho couldn't have come up more gilded, and he's done it very much by himself, by the bootstraps, though, through the second division.
Yeah, it's same as Sarri.
That's what Sarri, Mourinho's had the gilded part.
Yeah, precisely. I think
I don't think Mourinho has a psychological repertoire and range to evolve into this modern style of coaching. Has become very
interesting
evident.
point. Yeah,
I think he can't do the confrontational love me or hate me thing anymore. I think Hazard is a good litmus test here of giving you an insight into the managers, and he, by the looks of it this week, Real Madrid can't turn his head. He was angst-ridden the last 2 weeks, and he couldn't decide. He wanted to go at the start of the season. Now he loves football. He's come out just now saying how much he loves football, and I think it's because he's happy. And Sarri's very much about it's for the look, enjoy it.
I think so.
Express yourself.
Yeah.
Don't play with fear. Don't play reactively. We're going to be proactive. Klopp proactive.
Yeah.
All the great modern teams. Guardiola's redefined football there.
No, that's an interesting point. I think that I totally agree. I think that Sarri definitely brings the best out in players. But in saying that, we know what football's like, and one loss, you're always one loss away from who knows where you go.
He's done. I think it's a poor man's in slow motion torment, like a gladiatorial fight in the Roman times where he's been stuck and it's just staggering around the amphitheatre in full view. And I nearly feel for him. That's how much I think he's done. Yeah,
do let us know your thoughts if you're listening in. studio@salfordcityradio.org. Email us, the weekly sports show. Post a comment. Let us know what you think. Is Mourinho still the right man for the job? What are your thoughts? I think he's a winner. I think that he's got the capability to turn things around. He's an intelligent man. He's a winner. He's won things in the past. I think sometimes it's an indictment society sometimes these days where we tend to sort of dispose of people too quickly. And I think that sometimes you've got to hang in there and stick in there. But we're going to cover the rest of the Premiership as well and other sports as well too. And we're going to have a surprise guest as well.
Hi, this is Calvin Harris.
This is Katy Perry.
Yo, it's Pharrell.
Just wanna feel it.
And you're listening to my station.
This is
your city, your station.
Nothing ever lasts forever, no.
Salford City Radio.
I never thought I'd find this feeling.
And now we bring you Stunt Peg with the Bolton report. Stunt Peg, you're going to be covering Bolton tomorrow. Who have Bolton got? Tell us the rundown on Bolton.
So we've got Rotherham tomorrow at their place.
And what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, it's the history books or anything to go by. It's not one to look forward to. We've got a point in our last 8 matches against them. They've got a great home form too. They've only lost 2 of the last 21 home matches this season. They've lost 1, and it was just a narrow 3-2 defeat too. And the last time we beat them at their place was the same year England won the World Cup. So it's not looking great on that front. And Jamie Proctor, who used to play for Bolton, has said he's desperate to play against us. He plays for Rotherham, so need to lock him up in a cage because he's a striker, and knowing how luck he'll end up scoring as well. And the injury crisis that faced Rotherham, that's gone now. All the players have come back, so their manager Paul Ward will have a good selection to choose from. And on our front, Amiobi's injured, Buckley seems injured from the last match, Andy Taylor's just recovering from injury, same with our goalkeeper Ben Anick, so we're missing a few names. And we're going to have to rely on the flanks. We're going to have to rely on Craig Noon and Yannick Wilshot, who actually has a good record at the New York Stadium. He scored a couple of times there. But, it's an essential game to get 3 points because...
And we have a question. Clifford wants to pose a question to you. And the question is the state of Bolton Football Club at the moment. What are your thoughts? So, Clifford, what was we talked off air about the...
Yeah, I just heard that they're such a great institution with all the history, and they're at the brink of winking out of existence, I heard. Is that true? What's the latest on that?
What's the latest on that, Stunt Peg? Bolton out of existence, is that still a problem, or financially the problems off the field? What's your take on that?
Well, I think as long as the owner, things are going to stumble up all the time. We see it's not a surprise anymore, and this isn't a good thing when it's not a surprise. When a former player is tweeted saying, where's our money? We didn't feel like we needed, we feel like we needed to do this. We need to tweet because we're not getting our wages, we're not being paid. And then our restaurant at Paul Heathcote owns the restaurant, and he's going public as well and threatening to take the club to court, which is something again he didn't want to do, but they're feeling like they need to. And it's just that, alongside say a few losses as well at the moment, this poor run of form, it doesn't give you much hope, and especially with the fans, because the fans, with everything that we've been through in the last sort of few years, it doesn't take much to annoy them, if you get me. So there's a lot of animosity as well with the club.
It's horrible, isn't it, when business goes... This is a problem with business and sports, and especially football mixing. Your club's got to be... It's a kind of cathedral, a church. When I cycle past Old Trafford, it's a great sense of community. And when business go, they go under all the time, but you don't normally see it goes through the courts. But when it's your club, the mood affects, it ripples through the town, doesn't it? I mean, Newcastle's another good example.
Yeah, I mean, Bolton's a real communal club, and I think that Bolton itself, and you go down there, the stadium and the vibe you get there, it's always a really the cliche family club, but it is a family club, and it's a fantastic club, a lot of tradition, and obviously it's not easy, to financially balancing the books and that sort of stuff, but it's one of the things. And I've been impressed, I must admit, having seen Bolton last year a couple of times, and I've not been out to see him this season, but I was impressed at the fighting spirit. I think that the team's galvanised, and I'd be pretty confident that they can stay in the league, and I think it's got to be a priority. Sometimes the goalposts move with different teams, and you think, well, with what's gone on off the field and everything else that goes with it, they're hanging in there, and the clubs seem to be the players seem to be playing for the club. So no, it's an interesting prospect going forward. So I want to thank you for joining us, Stunt Peg. You have a great game tomorrow, and we'll speak to you again next time. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good game.
And we'll be bringing you reporters and collaborators throughout the weeks and months coming up as we knit this community together. There's so much great sports going on in Salford, and I think there's 120 clubs at the last count. And next week we're going to have on a great institution, Salford Sports Network, who's trying, their main aim is to get you up out of your couch right now. Join one of these sports clubs. Socially, it's great. Healthy body, healthy mind, there's an element, and there's so much choice you could do. You never know, you might be a great synchronised swimmer or an archer. There's all these clubs out there. So we're speaking to a representative from Salford Sports Network next Friday to get you into the mood of maybe joining one of these clubs. There's plenty to go at. And coming up, we'll be looking at Lewis Hamilton. Is he going to be is he already on the cusp of greatness, one of the greatest riders ever? The fifth title is in his reach. We'll be looking at that. And dangerous sports. What comes to mind as the most dangerous sport in the world? Boxing, I'm sure, is a common one. But today we're going to look at rugby and bull riding, which is an actual major sport in America. We're looking at that later on. And if you want to get involved, remember it's Salford City Radio Sport on the Twitter handle. And there's been lots going on this week. You can talk to us about the Wembley sale. And also Man United, the Saudis buying out Man United. Everyone's been thrilled about it, as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's football these days, and you mentioned there, Clifford, the business element and all that goes with it, and it's changed the whole dynamic of football. And we see this week City versus Burnley, Man City versus Burnley, and that's the epitome of a club that's received significant investment. But I like Burnley. I love the way Burnley's run as a club. I think that they have a sense of realism, and they do stay within their rooms from a budget point of view. They've got a good blend of young players, and I think the manager's done a fantastic job there, and they're doing well. They had a bit of a blip at the start of the season. They're away to City. It's going to be a tough game. What are your thoughts on the City-Burnley game, Clifford? I think that's
it's like salt versus sugar, isn't it? It's like austerity versus indulgence. City pioneering probably the best football in England, if not the world, right now. As we talked to them on earlier, they function as one organism, and it's so thrilling and exciting to watch. But Burnley have got maybe the tightest unit, and they do play a bit of football because they always get told how resilient they are and how collective they are, and it's true. You can't finish that hype as they did without that spirit. And is it at Burnley? Is it at home, or is it?
I know they're away. They're over at City, so it's going to be.
I'm going to do a score. I'm going to have to do a 3-1 score prediction.
Yeah. I'm going to go for City 2-0. I think they're going to a reasonably comfortable will. But it wouldn't surprise me if Burnley can nick a draw there after international break. A lot of players are coming back, and
Good point.
When players come back, they're not always, as much as players are professional these days, they've got psychologists and sports scientists, and they're primed to perform to their best.
They've got a great squad though at City.
Oh, of course.
And the big man's back. Also one of the best footballers in the world at the moment. Doesn't make a wrong decision, Kevin De Bruyne.
He's a phenomenal player.
But they're on the bounce, aren't they, Bert? They're on the bounce, Burnley. They're back. The distractions of the Europa Cup. It's such a shame. It's a shame that the finances, another thing, dictate that they can't really compete on two fronts. They earn the right to get into Europe. It's a shame they couldn't have had that run. Not only did they not qualify, really, but it completely skewered their Premier League form. So they're back now, looking good. So I'm sure that they'll get a goal tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think that, certainly Manchester City hasn't set the world on fire by their own standards, but we look at them, they're top of the table, joint top of the table. They haven't played.
They're sumptuous.
Yeah.
They're a joy to behold. I was a Man United fan.
Yeah, no, they are. I just think that this season, the standards they set last season in some of the games, and there were pivotal parts last season too, where I thought that they have that, what champions do. They get that last minute win. They grind the win when they have to as well. And I think that sort of missed as well. I think that's what Guardiola's brought to the team. Beautiful football, but he's also can grind the win out too.
That was what was interesting, and what he got lauded for, to show you how Mourinho's stock is so low. He did what he's never done in his life. He played reactive football to the Liverpool match last week. I think it was 1-1, and it was a dour game in many ways. But for the first time ever, he chose to be reactive and defensive. Liverpool had stung him bad last year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he did. He got lauded for it.
I think that,
but it shows him evolved. He's evolved tactically.
No, definitely.
It's dangerous. It's a dangerous notion. He's got even better, maybe.
Yeah, but you look at, say, Guardiola, and what are your thoughts on this? And the listeners out there, email us on studio@salfordcityradio.org and leave a comment on our weekly sports show. Guardiola, I mean, look at Mourinho. Mourinho, he's worked his way up. Mourinho has worked his way up the leagues. He's won at Porto. He's won at Inter Milan. And Inter Milan, by the way, weren't... I mean, they're a big club, obviously, but we've seen the likes of Juventus dominate Italian football the last few years. He won with Inter Milan. He's won ever he's gone.
Yeah, but he's only won at the dourest, not the defence, the small, not the big dogs, not the establishment, not the front foot. You're on prime time stage, do something. He's won with the underdogs. He can have that band of brothers, damn everyone.
That siege mentality.
Yeah, and it's too monochrome.
I mean, it's probably never going to happen. But
it's monochrome. It's not evolved.
How would you see Guardiola doing at a club?
I'd love to see Guardiola going to Burnley. I'd love to see. I mean, that's the only thing against Guardiola. He's managed three of the biggest behemoths in the world. But
that's right.
But still, where he's different from every other coach, he's brought in every 10, 20 years. There's a new kind of football. It was total football in the 70s, Ajax. Catenaccio in the 80s, with Italy, and then he in 2008, and Mourinho he made Mourinho extinct in 2008 with this new kind of 4D, hunting shoals, proactive.
Yeah,
what you do with the space, how you teach the team to
take a bit of time to sort of overhaul. In the early days that when Mourinho was at Real Madrid, he did give as good as he could get. It wasn't all
but it was like old versus new. It was this all aggressive, dour, and poking people in the eye, turning the whole city into a miserable walk it's like a walking holiday in Scotland.
Yeah,
actually, no, I love Scotland.
It's a beautiful country.
But what I mean is, he can't. Yeah. He's a one-trick dark pony. And we're going to get. There's a great couple of lads in American Red Devils who they're following us, and we're going to get them on the show. We'll do a match preview going forward, hopefully from next week on. And they got a great take, and it'll be interesting to get them the cross-cultural take on Mourinho, because they're very American and they do a great podcast. You can listen to it, American Red Devils. Well, they're going to be affiliated with the show, and interesting to get the American version. But he's done. Forget about it. I mean, where's he going to go after the Man United as well? I mean, he'll still be in demand, but by who?
Yeah,
who?
Think so. I think Mourinho.
Who's going to take him? Tier 1 football club.
I think a number of clubs. I think Mourinho his stock build is really high. I mean, I think that even at United, he's come in and he's done to a point. He's got him back in the Champions League. He's won a couple of trophies. I still think, and we sort of spoke about it before, and I'd like to hear the listeners' thoughts on it, and drop us an email or comment on the Facebook page. I still think that part of it's down to the success that City's experiencing. I think that I mean, you sort of look at City and they're coasting along and they're playing some great football. They got the right manager for them, that's for sure.
They're not just coasting; they're at the forefront of a new kind of football.
I think so. I think so. I think so. But it helps.
They're leading from the front. They're illuminating.
It helps if you
demonstrating.
It helps if you can go out and buy those players.
It does.
Like he says, I mean,
that's why I love Bournemouth. That's why I love Bournemouth.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic club.
Yeah.
And you know what? The thing I would think too, I'd like to see some homegrown managers be given the chance to manage some of these bigger teams.
Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I think so. How would he do at a City? How would
love to see Eddie Howe?
I think so.
He's good. What about Man United? Too big for him now?
Well, I think that from the point of view, I think one thing to consider as well too, by the way, which sort of goes amiss, is that certain managers can attract certain players, and I think that's a huge thing. And I think that you've got to ask yourself, okay, is the likes of is the likes of a Griezmann going to come to United? Eddie Howe's manager? I don't know.
Apparently, Mourinho's going to personally, single-handedly guarantee the delivery of the new Matic. Is it Milankovic-Savic?
I believe so. Yeah,
he's been to pure pulling power. He's got players inside the hat already that want to leave, that won't sign new contracts while he's there.
That's the point. And I think with all managers, I think that sometimes you're going to get players who play and not. But we saw like Sarri bring Jorginho across to Chelsea. He's followed him across, and you got to ask yourself, well, likes of Eddie Howe, who's he going to bring across? But that's not taking anything away from him. And I think that...
Well, that's why they want to get a director of football. It's the great Italian guy who's been responsible for Juventus' history, buying in great players at the beginning of their careers. He brought in Pogba. Brought in some great...
What? Interesting one that... and I'd like to hear the listeners' take. I'm not so sure about the sporting directors, to be fair. The only reason being is that if you're a manager and you've got someone above and beyond, I know if I was managing a team and there was a list of players on a piece of paper they're going to try and bring in, I don't think I'd be really happy about that. I think you just can't put your mark on the team, and I think for me it might work well in Europe. I think to a point. In the English game, I'm not so sure. I think the way traditionally the Premier League's played English football. Do you think it can work, the sporting director?
The problem is, I think it worked great, the Ferguson way, but that's outdated now because it is a business model and the CEO doesn't know anything about football, and a lot of these, well, especially Man United, Ed Woodward, he can't just risk manager after manager coming in with their own subjective whims. So you've got to have someone, a middleman, to set the tone and set, like Man City. They're a serious global operation with continents covered, 7 clubs now bought from Uruguay, across to Japan, to Australia, and they've got a blueprint, and that runs irrelevant of the manager. So I think they've got it. But interestingly, the 2 of the best ones in the business from Juventus have both come free at once. There was a lot of talk about signing them, and now it's all gone quiet. And the rumours is that the Glazers are not. There's no point in them now doing that if they're going to sell to Saudis for £4 billion.
Wow.
So
I mean that's the thing.
In America, they're convinced that it's a done deal.
Yeah,
so we'll see. $4 billion.
I think you just about set me off on a rant now. No. The reason, one thing that sort of gets me is, where does this financial fair play come in? I mean, we've heard a lot about it, but where does it come in?
It wasn't even a nod of the hat, really. I mean, PSG keep getting punished, and the odd team does, but it's an inexplicable march towards pure finances. Look at Salford City, and we'll be becoming the station of Salford City Football Club soon. We'll be getting down there. If you're listening, it'd be great to get in touch. We're going to be coming down, and we're going to establish some correspondence and be following them closely, because they're on a great run as well, and I believe they're in the FA Cup this weekend.
They are indeed, and they're away to Marine. Now, Marine's a team with tradition in the FA Cup.
Marine, not heard of them.
No, they're the tradition. They're playing the Northern Premier League, and they're a decent team. They've had some good players, and they had a good cup run, I believe, in 92-93, the third round, and I'm pretty sure they lost to Crewe. But they've had some decent runs in the FA Cup, and some of the past players they've had is Jason McAtee. McAtee?
Of course.
They've also had
great shampoo advertiser.
Well, exactly. Paul Cook, manager at Wigan now,
doing great as well. Wigan, I love Wigan. Been following them.
John
for a long
Coleman,
time.
who manager back at Akistan.
Oh, they've got some pedigree. They've got some stardust.
Yeah. I mean, he's played from two.
How big a club is it? How big a outfit is it? How many fans do they get? 1,000.
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, I think the capacity is probably about, say, 3,000 on paper, but I don't know if they'd be getting...
Great game, though. This is what the FA Cup's about, isn't it?
The FA Cup is fantastic. And for me, the FA Cup is one of the best, if not the best, domestic sporting competition in the world. There's a romance about the cup.
Big talk.
I think there's a romance about the cup.
Is that the only place there is romance left in football, perhaps?
When you get a true David versus Goliath, and where do you get that? And I think that.
Well, look at Derby beating Man United. It was fantastic. All those players. It was one of their greatest moments of their career.
Yeah, I mean
that free kick. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. I mean, it's not as romantic. It's not quite got the lust of the Caribou, the Milk Cup or Rumbelows Cup, but it's the same principle. A small team can be a big team.
It is, and I remember being a kid and watching the FA Cup, and it was phenomenal. And watching the likes of Gascoigne for Tottenham, and it was phenomenal.
Was it big in Australia growing up?
It was. I used to, 3 a.m. And
that was when you only got one game a year on TV.
Precisely, exactly. You had to tune into terrestrial television. You'd be up.
Who did you support then?
Well,
back in your hometown, running around.
Yeah, no, I've always been a United fan. For years, and I've always had a soft spot for United, just the ethos of the club, the football they play, and I mean these days I'm more of a football purist. I get to games and I've been involved in the game in a professional capacity as well, and I work with players individually and I look out for them every week, my small stable of players, and I look out for them too. So I'd be a purist, but something about United, and I think that United, the style of football over the years, and you go back to the George Best and the Charltons, and there's something special about their club, and it's not taking anything away from.
The trouble is, in the last few years since Ferguson, is that the business side has been careering away, and they've crossed on a graph. They've crossed over between what was built on the actual football and entertain the people, and it's a weekly coming together, a mass, and that's. Okay, they can sell noodles everywhere in the world, but they've crossed over, and now the commercial side's roaring, the football side's sank, and they're in a dangerous position because one is the foundation of the other, and it's crossed into reverse. So
but they've had a period before where they didn't have a great deal of success too, and I think that
they got relegated, didn't they?
Precisely, I think it's lost on people. I think United are a big club, and United will bounce back at some point. I don't think they'll have the success as long as there's investment in other clubs like City and Chelsea, like they had in the past. They are
like the bauble clubs that the owners are just independently wealthy, and
precisely. Arguably, United is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and from a following fan base point of view, they're a huge club. And I mean, to signify that, the sponsorship deals that they were being offered, even when they dropped out of the top 4, goes to show how big they are and the games they play abroad. Will
the Glazers sell for $4 billion? They probably can. This dividend, and it's such a golden cash cow that it'd be. I'm sure any businessman would be loath to sell, but $4 billion is crazy numbers considering they only put in 500 not of their own money. It's a good deal, I think. It must be tempted anyone.
No, time will tell, and
so
obviously,
we'll see.
Time will tell. So, we're going to cover the most dangerous sport shortly, and do drop us an email. Drop us an email on studio@salfordcityradio.org, and get on the Facebook page, Weekly Sports Show, and drop us a line.
Are you looking to advertise your business, promote your company, or market your project? Well, you can do just that with Salford City Radio. All you have to do is get in contact with us, which couldn't be easier. Email us at info@salfordcityradio.org, call 0161 793 2939, or you can click on the advertising tab at our website at www.salfordcityradio.org.
Good evening, welcome back Salford, and indeed wherever you may be positioned right now listening to Salford City Radio Sports, knitting together this community and going around the globe and reflecting sports as much and best as we can in all its glory in 1 hour. Now what's interested me is I saw this report recently of the 10 most dangerous sports. Now what's jumping to your mind there at home? I mean, boxing obviously has got risk attached, getting punched in the face. But there's a few of them, and I've heard different stories, and it'll come out. We'll talk about it again next week. But this week we're going to look. You're going to look at rugby, which for me is one of the last few bastions of brutality. When you're watching a game of rugby in this health and safety world, and where footballers are getting penalised for that tackle, that great tackle, you're watching pure brutality of the hundreds of kilograms smashing into each other, and the injuries so rugby. It's up there, but I'm going to look at bull riding. Do you know much about bull riding?
Not a great deal, and you could also throw that winter sport. Is it Skelton, the one where they sort of
you
fly
go down on the old on the old hubcap?
I fancy that.
That's crazy.
First 100 miles an hour.
But what I say bull riding? What's the first thing that comes into your head?
Well, getting thrown off.
I mean, would you do it? Let me set the scene before you decide that. This week we're going to look at bull riding rugby, see which one's more dangerous. You get involved. You tell us. Well, I'm going to set the scene for bull riding. It's a huge sport in America, especially the Midwest, but in cowboy country, Dixieland. Basically, you got to sit on a bull and stay on this angry 1,000 kilogram animal for as long as possible. Now that is that's primal. That's what adrenaline was invented for. So people say it's the most dangerous 8 seconds in sport, and I'm not going to disagree. Because the biggest problems they have in this sport, it's not, say in football, it could, you sprain your ankle. I've done it, it's terrible. But bull riding, goring and the lancing of your neck, head and face are the biggest problems. I mean, these are that has serious repercussions. And definite concussion comes as standard. And after, in 1989, when the best bull rider rodeo in America and thus the world, I guess, Lane Frost, he had his heart punctured by the horns. So now they wear compulsory ballistic vests. Would you try it?
I think I'll get that on a miss. You just told me out of it.
But it's a sport, so I'm going to suggest to you bull riding is more dangerous than rugby. What do you think about rugby?
I think there are different sort of dangers, and certainly rugby's come a long way in terms of a protected sport. When back in the day, I don't know if you played at school. I did.
We had to play.
Play rugby at school, and you got obviously both codes, union and league. We played league at school. And when I played at school, it was when the transitions were coming in, where the health and safety was coming in, and it went to sort of...
You come on, I'm looking at you. You caught a bit of the old school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. The old.
Anything goes.
Yeah, the tackle above. And they're the dangerous tackles, and it went to touch rugby, and things have changed over the years, and they've made it it's a lot safer.
Did you get injured as a kid? Every game there was someone coming off seriously injured in my school.
Yeah, I think so. The odd niggle here and there, and I sort of...
You got any aches? I've actually got a rugby injury now. I've got an old hip flexor, and it's causing me a right load.
It's a contact sport, and I think that the one thing about the rugby players, and whether it be union or league, which are two different codes altogether, and we're blessed with a number of teams in Salford. You've got the rugby league team Salford, you've got Sale Sharks not far away in Union, so we definitely want to get involved with them. But for me, they are among some of the best athletes in the world. They are prime. They really are.
Is there a better specimen for speed, agility, strength, deftness? No,
I think for me and the overall athlete in rugby, you've got to be a phenomenal athlete.
It's terrifying now. I mean, they're almost 6 foot. They're almost be minimum kgs of what?
Definitely. They're athletes. They really are. And I think that they are tremendous athletes. And I think that obviously if you've got two athletes running at each other at speed, there's potential damage. But
I think it's the last great game though. You can get hurt. You have to hurt for your teammate. And that makes you think in a different way.
You see a big tackle. Obviously, the game.
That's why I'd recommend it.
I love the game.
Even though concussions come a long way in the press recently of illustrating how dangerous it is and the long-term damages like American football. And there was the great debate about should they stop it at schools? It's a threat. Should there be no contact? There's got to be contact. You've got to learn. It's a great proof.
I think so.
It was built for empire, wasn't it? It was built.
I think to a point. I think that you do need to have some quality controls in there, some safeguarding, because obviously it is a tough physical sport. And I mean, the difference is that you've got these athletes that play at the highest level. They are primed and they're training every day.
To bring one of them down is a big deal.
Yeah,
when they're running at you.
Yeah, I think so. But then you've got schoolboy rugby is going to be a huge gulf between, from a physical point of view, and also the maturation of the players in their 20s. And I think that from the point of view that the game is a tough game. I think the physical demands of the game are tough. Definitely.
There's not many team sports out there at the moment with that level of brutality that's going to test you as an individual more. When there's someone running at you, you've got to get hurt. I love that element.
Your body's on the line, that's for sure. And you see like a big tackle, and you see players going in there with obviously the rules and regulations. You can't go above a certain height in the tackle. You can't. I think the speed tackle's banned, and rightly so. So
it can't be willful brute. There can't be willful
for
punishment.
Sure. Definitely, they are tremendous athletes. They're training hours a day. The game's professional sport pretty much in the main now. So that's for sure. So I think it's one of them really. I suppose you can get injured. You can get injured walking the dog in the morning. Yeah. That's the whole story.
I think it's more important than ever. Like long format cricket, 5-day cricket in this modern age of protection and all this.
I don't know if you remember years ago. I stand corrected, by the way. I'm sort of recollecting the story I'd come across years ago was Roy Keane. I think got injured one time walking his dog, and you think, one of the most powerful. They don't make midfielders like him anymore, do they? To be fair, he was, I think, the last of the.
I saw a clip this week, a great clip of Gareth Southgate, and he was playing for Palace against United in the 90s. He came sliding in with the most brutal tackle on Roy Keane. Roy Keane did not move one toe. He stood there, he crashed into him, Southgate, and McKean's just looking at him and stamped on him. I mean, those days are gone. But rugby, I'm going to put bull riding forward as a more dangerous sport. Rugby is brutal, but
I think you're right to a point. I think certainly in terms of the impact injury,
it's a crazy sport.
I think so for sure.
It's a crazy sport. You're risking serious maiming.
I think both sports have got different dangers. That's for sure. And I don't know what the injury ratio is in bull riding, but I can imagine falling off that height wouldn't be pleasant. That's for sure. And obviously,
big reason for damage to backs as well, broken spines coming off a big animal, a horse, or
for sure, definitely. And then
that's without the other end, the two big horns.
Yeah.
One thing while I'm at it actually is interesting is didn't the Antipodeans, the Australians, when you were doing schoolboy rugby, they would band you together in scale, not in age. So in mass, the same size kids play together. Because in England we had the opposite, and it was ridiculous because the big guys had just run amok. It had a burst of testosterone as a foot. So it wasn't. It was good in a way that you had to get over your fear.
That's interesting.
But I heard over the Antipodeans,
they may have done.
They did it more so it was more safe, but also you get to test yourself.
It might have been after my time. Certainly when I at school, and
there's going to be plenty after that time, isn't there?
Precisely. There's a lot of water under the bridge that's gone.
I'm only joking. He's a spring chicken here. Well, I know you can't see him, but
we used to go outside and play on the road, and the biggest danger we had playing rugby was that we'd play on the street, and every
there you go, it's tough. Getting driven into the concrete.
No, it was touch rugby on the street, but no one held back, and every now and again you had to stop for a car coming past.
We did that with football.
Yeah, exactly.
Last stage that played outside, and the streets were the playgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. And
last stage of innocence.
Rain, hail, shine, heat, you name it. We were out there, we were playing, and. Not that I'm recommending or encouraging people playing rugby league.
It's a lost time
on the street, but that's the way it was back then, and that's the way it was. It's a different era, and rightly or wrongly, things have changed. And
still a great brutal sport, though. It's very unique.
I think so.
You don't see that level of brutality.
I think so across different sports, and also the reaction too as well. I think for me, but one thing I have seen in the last few years, I have seen a little bit more, and this will be interesting to see if any of the listeners can email us on studio@salfordcityradio.org. or the weekly sports show. I have seen players play for penalties more, and I wouldn't say fake injuries, but probably make more. That sort of football element's creeped in a little bit. Just a little bit is there. A couple of games I've watched over the last few years, but that could be isolated incidents.
Cynicism and it linked with maybe profit, I don't know, because it's interesting to document that in the women's football league at the moment. There's been a lot less play acting, and there's been a lot more pure and honourable. But we'll see if that changes as the money goes into the game. Well done as well this week to Chelsea's win over Fiorentina in the Champions League. Great 1-0 victory to the ladies. England looking well poised for next World Cup. Yeah,
I think, and I said a couple of years ago, I went down to a conference at St George's, the home of football now.
That's right,
and I went to a conference there.
Heartland.
Yeah, and
spiritual home.
And I spoke to a few coaches out there, and I thought I was really impressed by some of the work that coaches are doing over here. I said at that point, it was 2-3 years ago, that I felt within the next 10-15 years England will win a major trophy at senior level. I think that the work they're doing...
At football?
I think so.
Really?
I think so. And you can hold me down to it. I think that...
No, you're right.
There's some good players come through. I said 2-3 years ago.
part of the modern game as well,
I think so.
The passing and
they've
possession.
proven that they've won stuff in the last, at 17.
They won 17 and 20
for sure.
And all these players coming... There was suddenly a conveyor belt of young players. Chabalab made his debut after a long injury.
My only concern is that some of these players, will they get the chance to play?
Yeah.
Will they get the chance to
it's
play?
It's a horrible concern.
First team football. You're a 19, 20-year-old.
Yeah.
You've been in the World Cup. You've won the World Cup for your age group, and you don't get a game, where do you go from there?
It's a soul-sapping notion. All
Yeah.
these great stifled English hopes.
Yeah.
There's the biggest problem in the Premier League.
But that's why you got
look at McTominay going out on loan, perhaps.
Yeah, but that's why I think that the likes of Tottenham, Pochettino, he's done well for the English game too.
Yeah.
And
He's got a tight squad.
I think so, and look at the players that he's brought in, and he, certainly a lot of good young English players playing. Then it goes to show that they're given the chance, every reason to do well. So I think so. I think they've got a great chance in the next 10, 15. And it takes time they might win earlier than that. I don't know. Later it might not happen. But I think for me, from what I can see, there are some good players coming through. That's for sure.
Your optimism, I think, is based in a great sincerity and a great fact. I agree.
What you see,
I agree with it.
Like it is, and
we were exciting for the first time again. It was a big deal that in Spain. That is my sporting achievement of the week. The team of England beating Spain, first scalp of a better team than us away from home. One of the best teams in the world. Bossed that first half like a viper. Calm, cold, control, collected. And in some ways, it was more disappointing because of that. The second half of fear and lack of really anything, dominating or putting any imprint on the game. Just rear guard Mourinho ball, and that was a bit disappointing.
I think so. But I think credit to Spain, they came out and they could have really
great team.
Yeah, I mean they are. They got some great players and
well, first half though, exciting. I think that's pretty much evidence what you said. That first half of what's to come, hopefully for the football team, because we've been waiting too long here. I'm still upset about 1990. I mean, we're going to get it.
So am I. For other reasons too. I thought that I have a soft spot for the Italian team, and I thought in 1990, what a good final that would have been. Italy versus England in 1990.
That should have been the final.
It should have been the final. It should have been the final.
There's so much good.
We reminisced.
Yeah. We've not got long. We're in the final few laps here of the show. Upcoming features, though, we can guarantee you coming up soon is School Report. We're going to be looking at schools in and around Salford and see who the big young stars of the week are. So we come to a school near you. Obviously going to be following Salford City a lot more closely. Going to be the voice of Salford City Football Club. The American Red Devils are going to get them involved to get their take on the weekly Man United review. We're going to look at Club of the Week as well in Salford. So many great institutions. Individual performance of the week I'm going to give to Tom Curran. Replaced injured Liam Dawson for the third one day with the white ball in Sri Lanka. 3 wickets for 17. He's already, like you said, didn't you, before? Remember, he saved the England team with a bat in the long term of the game.
I still can't get my head around why he was